I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, don't make me mad. You wouldn't like me when I'm mad. Come on, who said it? Everybody knows who said that. The Incredible Hulk. Well, that was a guy with anger issues big time, but all of us, more or less, have problems at time controlling our tempers. For some people, it's worse, and that's when they need professional help from a person like Mark Stricklin. Mark is an expert in anger management. He's been doing this for over 25 years, and he has literally written the book. It is called Anger Management, a simple guide to managing life's expectations. Mark, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
My pleasure. I guess everybody feels angry. It's whether you express that anger or not, right?
Well, anger is an emotion, and it's a emotion, and that's what I share with many people. You experience anger when you have an unmet expectations. So if you are a person that have any expectations in life, then if they're unmet, you'll feel a range of emotions from being mad, sad, all the way up to being postal. So everybody experiences anger,
Hmm.
including
Yeah.
myself. I'm an anger management person.
Exactly. But the difference is I'll be frustrated with my computer and maybe pound my fist on the desk. Another person will be angry at the computer and pick up the computer and throw it across the room. So that's a little bit what we're talking about, right?
Oh, correct. Here's the thing about expressing anger. Those that seem to be more aggressive or violent with their anger do that because it's a learned response. It actually works.
Yeah.
So when you meet an angry person, they're basically out of control. A lot of us will go, "Well, you're that angry. Have your way." So
Right.
we reinforce that behavior. We don't know how to confront angry people, let them express their feelings, and then and resolution.
So some people actually use anger as a weapon or a tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about expectations. They say life is an expectations game, and it seems like that's the root of the problem when it comes to people and anger, right?
Yeah, it's so simple that many that come to my class, and I usually work with those just out of prison or in homeless shelters, and they spent time in prison and experience themselves a lot of anger issues or anger directed at them. And I explained to them that when we get angry because we have an expectation not met, it seems like they have an aha moment, really, because it's not that difficult because every expectation, I mean, every anger boils down to some expectation, a little bit like a layer of onions, but we just have these expectations, and the challenge is okay, is to be looking at your own expectation and say, okay, is this a reasonable expectation? Well, usually the answer is yes, because that's what we think all our expectations reasonable. But really, if I buy a lotto ticket for $1, do I really expect to win? I hope, but do I really expect? But if I mortgage my house for $100,000 and I go buy $100,000 worth of lotto tickets, now I have an expectation, and I'm going to be really angry if I don't win. So it's interesting. Expectations is the foundation, and so it's all about managing your expectations and expressing your anger in a socially acceptable way.
At what point does anger become problematic?
Well, it becomes problematic in relationships, and that. But the funny thing is, you got to know the game where you're at. I mean, some you might be playing baseball, softball, basketball. I'm using sports analogies here, but depending on the group you're in, the society, whatever you're. If I'm at church, there's one set of rules of behavior, but if I'm on the corner with my buddies and my homies, there's a different set of expectations and allowance for expression anger. Matter of fact, when I was growing up, my father expressed anger quite openly and allowed me to do that. He was we are military, traveled around a lot, so I was in trouble a lot and fights a lot. And when I got in a fight at school, my father would just say, he'd pat me on the back and say, "That a boy, I'm so proud of you," because I lived up to his expectations that I didn't, if I were disrespected, I would use violence and anger to rectify the situation. Well, I can't do that in church.
Right.
I can't do that in the workplace
Right.
anymore.
Right.
You know?
Anymore. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I had bosses, news directors working in a TV newsroom most of my adult life. They were infamous screamers. I mean, they would throw typewriters, they would have tantrums. And like you said, it was a tool or a power play for a lot of them. But this behavior, of course, today would get people fired and sued, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it works. And especially in relationships, between two people, if one is a screamer and the other one usually backs off after a while, it's and we reinforce that behavior. Like how do we approach an angry person and get them to calm down? That's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Now, you've actually put together a program to help people get through this, a step-by-step guide. Tell me a little bit about that program and how it's different from other programs.
Well, my program is I'm open to the public. It's free of charge, and different agencies will send them to my location, and whether it's from the Army, whether it's parole agents, or whether it's people in other transitional housing, and or even friends and family send people to my class. And so basically, it's a very folksy, down to earth, where we just talk about what makes us angry and what are the choices we have to how do we respond, because it has to be individualistic. There really isn't like one, two, three, four, five for every person. You have to decide in that situation what is the appropriate behavior for this. Sometimes it is walking away. Sometimes it is standing up for yourself. Sometimes it's talking to somebody else. Sometimes there's a lot of things about your expectations that you have to figure out yourself. So being angry, feeling the emotion is the easy part. The hard part is, okay, what do I do now that I'm angry? That's appropriate.
Exactly. Is it IQ related? Do you feel that people with lower IQs are more likely to be volatile and express that anger in a dangerous or criminal way? And people who are more educated, who have a higher IQ perhaps, are less likely to express that anger, although they might feel it?
Oh boy, you asked a real loaded question there. There's actually a study of those that study intelligence. They'll come to me in just a minute. Uh, Dunny, and Kruger, and what they studied intelligence was that people of lower IQ and lower intelligence have a problem self-assessing themselves. They
Mhm.
think they're smarter than they are, and they don't have the tools to really identify maybe areas of weaknesses as well. Those that are over, those are higher IQ, underassess how smart they are because they think, well, that was easy. Why don't you understand it? So, when it comes to anger management, to be, you have to have this tool really to be able to sit back and be self-aware, saying, you know what, that is really inappropriate for this situation. What can I do to modify my behavior, modify my expectation, so I'm appropriate in the situation again? So yes, it does seem to be somewhat related to intelligence.
Yeah, interesting. My mom, we were talking about our parents and their expectations and what they taught us. My mother told me when I first got married, she's, your wife's going to do things that'll drive you crazy. She's going to make you angry. She's like, get your hat and go take a walk. So that was her advice for me. If I get angry, go take a walk. Is that good practical advice? If you feel anger building up inside of you and you're in a bad situation, remove yourself from that situation.
Well, it's a trick question that I ask my class all the time. I'll give a black and white situation, but the answer is always depends.
Hmm.
You know, you can't have a rule of thumb saying walking away, because sometimes you need to stay and work out the solution. Walking away can be considered rude, disrespectful. Come back here, we need to talk. No,
Right.
I'm leaving you. I'll come back, and then I'm cooling off. So research, in psychology about anger, they used to have uh, pillow fights. give foam bats to the husbands and wives or people, and they would just time aggression and beat each other to let all that steam out, let all that anger out. And they come to find out it didn't really work. So there's a misconception that anger is like steam in a teapot. If you don't let it out, then you're going to go postal. So, but the funny thing is, if you believe that, if you believe anger's there's pressure inside you and you got to get it out, well, guess what? It's true to you. And so again, being knowledgeable about, you know what, I'm angry. It's not a pressure inside of me. It's not steam building up me, and I need to learn the tools and find the resources to deal with it appropriately.
And often the resources are your words. You know, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling angry, if somebody has said something that triggers you, you know, you express to that person that what you said to me hurts me. It makes me very angry. It makes me, you know, feel bad about myself, and in turn feel bad about our relationship. So finding the words to express your anger, I would think, would be important as well.
It is, and it works both ways. But sometimes people on the other end, you know, you say we think, well, if I express how I feel, the other person is going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry." That's an expectation,
Right.
and many times, you know, the expectation doesn't come out. Like you work the 10 steps. A lot of the people that come to my 10 steps, and they have a reconciliation part of the 10 steps. Well, they have this expectation, and if they go to that person, seek amends, that the other side will say, "Oh, okay, you're working this step. You're really sincerely apologetic." But a lot of times it doesn't work out because the other party needs to be receptive. So this is how the expectations come in. If I need to express myself, the other side needs to have the tools to learn how to receive it. So you, as a person, need to demonstrate when other people, especially in relationships, how to accept their anger, their emotions, and demonstrate it. So then, when it's your turn, you can say, "Hey, can you just listen?" And one of the best tools, and I'll say this real quickly, is what we call reflective dialogue.
Mhm.
You say something that makes you angry, and I kind of rephrase it, repeat back, reflect back what you just said, and that does so much to calming down. We're talking about dealing with angry people. Once they know you understand, because that's why people get angry, because they want to communicate. Listen to me. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Well, when you communicate that you're listening, maybe not agreeing, but you listen to them and you repeat back and you say, "Hey, did I get why you're angry?" And a lot of times they go, "Oh, yeah, yeah, that's how I feel." And then you can say, "Well, can I have permission? Can I respond? Can I say something?" And
Right.
then you've toned down or de-emphasized, you know, the intensity of the anger.
Interesting, interesting. You know, we hear a lot about gaslighting these days. What about people who purposely push the buttons of someone to make them angry, so they can win the argument and be the victim and feel like the good guy, that kind of stuff?
Oh, that's good.
Another loaded question, right?
Yeah,
I'm
no,
filled
it's
with them. I'm a 1960s guy trapped in a 2022 world.
yeah, you know, there's so many like that. It's just it's a great question. I mean,
Thank you.
I have this thing called pet peeves, you know, and pet peeves make me angry. Gaslighting is one of them. That makes me angry, you know, when people gaslight me um and, and or you know, and there's today if I, you know, now we don't call anybody anymore, but now I text somebody,
Right,
you know, and you kind of have an expectation text me back, right?
right.
And if it's, you know, call me if it's a long thing. But, you know, it's just we have so many expectations in life that we just need to recognize when we get angry. Um, you know, um, and one thing I love about those working in addictions, they have a phrase: don't let anybody knock you off your own square. In other words, you have territory under your feet. It's your responsibility to stay on your square. Don't let anybody gaslight, push your buttons. Just protect that square. Learn how to protect that square because you are ultimately responsible. If they knock you off the square, you're responsible for letting them knock you off your square.
Interesting. Well, it's a fascinating topic. Let me just ask you one more question before we go. Bad language, insults, when anger is expressed that way, I presume it's extremely harmful.
Well, words hurt. I mean, definitely. And And what happens is when you express anger like that, it deters from the issue of what is angry. Now you're insulting, disrespecting, and a lot of times these arguments don't end up resolving because the issue is now is how you treat, how you said. I don't like the way you said or how you said that,
Right.
you know. And now, so why can't we be civil even when we're angry? Like some people, I'm watched all the time now. I'm an anger management specialist, so my employees, everybody watch me when I get angry, and some of them will say, "Well, I couldn't even tell you were angry." I said, "Oh, well, you want me to swear? You want me to yell? You want me to cuss? You want
Right.
me to throw things?" Yes, I am very angry. But you don't sound like you're angry. I said, "Well, what does that sound like?" You know. So we just need to learn to be civil. I mean, we're just not civil towards each other anymore.
Exactly. Why can't we all just get along?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about your parents. My parents told me uh, to treat each other like dogs. You know, when you just see someone, you pet them, you greet them, you're happy, and you feed them. You're nice to
That's
dogs.
good.
You're like dogs.
Your parents gave you good advice. Definitely treat each other like dogs. That's the takeaway today.
Okay, anger management. Well, I'm sure
Exactly.
that's a good meme. Going to be like a meme or something.
Exactly. Well, it's been wonderful talking to you. The name of the book is Anger Management, A Simple Guide to Managing Life's Expectations. It's all an expectations game. If you're calling up the cable company, expect to be frustrated. Don't get angry. Mark Stricklin, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Logan. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.